Bluetooth is a great way to add a wireless connection between your Arduino project and your mobile phone or computer. So let me show you how it's done. Hi and welcome to Bytes and Bits. In this video we're going to have a look at how we can connect a little Bluetooth module to our Arduino project, and that will then let us communicate with our device using Bluetooth either on a mobile phone or a tablet or a computer or even between different Arduino projects. Now this is going to be the first in 3 videos, and this one we're going to have a look at connecting up the Bluetooth module and then communicating with our project using just a simple Bluetooth terminal running on a mobile phone. We're then going to have a look in other videos. One of those will be actually setting up the Bluetooth module, so there are different ways in which we can set it up and set different data transmission rates on it. And then we'll have a look at taking the project into the final stages where we can actually write our own little mobile application running on a phone to get it to talk to our device and do some control and have some data being sent back again. So please do make sure you click on the like and subscribe buttons below. Check the notifications as well, so that as soon as I release the other videos, you'll have those and you can then follow along the rest of the project. And don't forget as well that all of the software and more information about how these projects work, you'll find that on my website, and all the links will be in the descriptions down below, so you can get to those and again download all of the code that I've been using and writing for this. But let's get started straight away. Let's connect up our Bluetooth module and get some software running and see how all of that works. The most common Bluetooth modules you'll find are the HC-05 and HC-06. And usually you'll buy those on a little breakout board. So on the picture there, the actual Bluetooth module is the green circuit board, but that's mounted on one of these blue breakout boards, so that we then have some pins that allow us to easily plug it into a breadboard. And again, that just gives us the pins that we need to actually drive this thing. Now if you look, you'll notice that the two devices are slightly different. But as far as we're concerned in this project, where we're going to add a Bluetooth connection to our Arduino, and then we're going to be connecting to it from our mobile device. In that situation, both of those work in identical ways. And that then is in the slave mode, where our mobile phone is going to be the master, which is going to initiate the connection and then be able to then communicate with our Bluetooth module. Now, the HC-06 only works in slave mode, so that's fine for what we're going to do today. The HC-05 has the ability to also work in master mode, so if you did want to connect 2 Arduino projects together, then you'd need one of them, at least one of them, to have an HC-05 module, so that it can actually initiate the Bluetooth connection and set that up. But say, in this course here, all we're going to do is we're going to be using a mobile app on our phone to connect to our Arduino, so either one of these is absolutely perfect. So I'm going to be using an HC-06 slave only module in this little tutorial. And say, if you're not quite sure which ones to look out for, I'll put some links down to Amazon and eBay in the description below. But if we look at the back side of the device, you'll see that the actual pinouts are labelled there. So really all we need to use are the power supplies. We have our VCC and our ground, and then we have our 2 data pins, so our transmit data and our receive data, so the TXD and the RXD. The other 2 pins, which are the enable or key pin and the state output, are not connected on the HC-06, but they are the 2 extra pins that you'll find on the HC-05. But to be honest, at the moment, we don't actually need those. So if you do have an HC-05, you can just leave those totally unconnected, and the project will work exactly as you'll see in the video. Now, one thing we need to be careful with are the voltage levels. If you look here, our supply voltage can be anywhere between 3.6 volts and 6 volts. So again, if we're going to be using a 5-volt system from our Arduino, that's going to be absolutely okay. But our data pins then, if you look at those, they are 3.3 volt digital signals. So using our Arduino with 5 volts coming out of that, we are going to have to step that down to the correct voltage levels, at least on the input into our Bluetooth module. And of course, that's going to be on the receive data pin. The transmit data pin coming from our Bluetooth module to our Arduino, and we can just connect that directly because that will drive at 3.3 volts, but our Arduino will be able to detect that quite well. So if we have a look at the circuit, and I've laid this out in Fritzing, which is a very handy tool for sort of testing out your breadboards and laying out your electronic circuits and so on. But you'll see that it's a very simple circuit. So our Bluetooth module down here, to begin with, we first of all have to supply it with some power, obviously. So we're taking the 5 volts and ground from our Arduino, and we're basically feeding those onto the power rails on our breadboard and then into our VCC and ground. Now our data then, we could use the serial port. So the Arduino has a hardware serial port built into these two pins, so pin 0 and pin 1 down here. But on the Arduino Uno, that serial port is also the serial port used to communicate with your computer. So if we do connect to this serial port, which you can do, and that's not a problem, but if you do that, then you have to unplug things before you can then communicate with your computer. So as we want to update the software and so on, we would have to make sure that our Bluetooth module is powered down or disconnected, then upload our software and then reconnect everything up to test it. It would also mean, of course, then that we wouldn't be able to use the serial monitor on our computer to find out what's happening. So instead of using the hardware serial port, we're going to use a software serial port, and that's built into the Arduino IDE as a little package which we can use. And that lets us then really create a serial port on any two pins that we want to. So we're going to use, well, I'm going to use pins 8 and pin 9, and they will then become our serial channel to talk to our Bluetooth module. So I'm going to use pin number 8 as the Arduino's transmit pin. So that's going to be information coming out of the Arduino that we want to send over Bluetooth. So this pin here is an output from the Arduino. So remember that our Bluetooth module works at 3.3 volt logic, so we have to send that through a little voltage divider, which are these two resistors here. So from our signal coming out through a resistor, through another resistor down to ground, which means that when we tap off in the center here, if we choose resistance value, so I've got a 2.2k and a 5.7k resistor here, and if we use those as a voltage divider, that should give us around about our 3.3 volts. And again, it doesn't have to be exact as long as it's around about that value. So we're tapping then off from that center point in our potential divider, which should then, as I say, voltage shift our 5 volt data signal coming out of here to a 3 volt data signal, which we can then feed into the receive data pin on our Bluetooth. So remember, it's important here that the transmit pin on our Uno or our Arduino is connected to the receive data pin on the Bluetooth module. So if you think about it, the Uno is transmitting data and the Bluetooth module is receiving that data. So the only other connection in this circuit then is from the transmit pin on the Bluetooth, the HC-06, and that is simply connected directly onto pin number 9, which will be the receive data pin on the Arduino. And that really is the whole circuit that we need. So this is that same circuit built up on actual breadboard with components, and as you can see, there's not very much to that. But that does mean then that we are ready to start making this work. All we need to do is to add the code to drive it. So let's get straight into that and get some data moving. So this is just a very simple Arduino sketch, and really what we're going to do is we're going to connect to our Bluetooth module. We're then going to listen to see if anybody is sending us any data, and then we're going to print that out back up to the PC through the serial port. So let's have a look at the basic structure then. So we need to use this software serial library. So if I bring that up on the Arduino website, so this is the software serial library, and you can see there that it provides a number of functions which we need to use to communicate over Bluetooth. So let's go back into Arduino and see where that actually happens then. So we import our library here. We then need to tell our software serial module which pins we're using for our receive and transmit. So I'm just defining our two pin numbers here. So we're saying that our receive pin is going to be on pin 9 and our transmit pin on pin 8. We're then instantiating one of these software serial objects. So we're saying we're creating a variable called BT serial. So that stands for my Bluetooth serial link. And that is going to be an instance of this software serial object. And for its constructor then, we need to tell it which pins we're using for our receive pin and our transmit pin. So at that point, we now have BT serial. So this variable here is now an instance of this object. So we're going to be using our two pins. So our receive pin needs to be set up as an input. Our transmit pin needs to be set up as an output. Now, by default, the Bluetooth modules talk to the Arduino at 9600 baud. We can change that. And as I say, that's one of the things I'll be looking at in another video, where we can actually communicate directly with the Bluetooth module and change its settings. But when you first buy it, it should come along and it should be set up at 9600 baud. So we're saying here we're going to start our Bluetooth serial object and we're going to begin transmission, and we're telling it what baud rate we're going to use. I'm also then going to be sending data back up to the PC for the serial monitor. So again, we're going to start off the hardware serial channel, and we're going to set that up at 9600 baud as well, just to keep everything in the same. And that's basically our setup done. That's all we need to do. So these three lines here, basically after we've defined our software serial object, that's all we need to do to get it up and running. So the actual loop then, all I'm going to do here is I'm going to sit receiving data until I get an end of message character. So what's happening? So we're using these two global variables here to build up the message. Then inside our main Arduino loop, we're a little while loop here. So we're using this method of our software serial object, and that basically tells us, if we call the available method, that will tell us how many characters are waiting for us to read. So all of this happens asynchronously to our Arduino code. So as the Bluetooth module receives data, it transmits it across to the Arduino, but this software serial class, or the object, simply sits there collecting that data and making it available then for us to read. So that says that, so if we get that value coming back greater than 0, that means that there are characters in the serial buffer waiting for us to deal with them. So all we're saying then, so while we have some more data to read, we're going to read the next character. So I'm saying here I'm creating a variable data, and that's going to be equal to the next character in the serial buffer. I'm then adding that onto my message buffer, so I'm as well buffering it here inside this variable. And then I'm using a semicolon as my end of message character. So we're basically going to sit in here, if we've got characters available, we read it in and we add it onto our message. If we just received a semicolon character, then we're going to do something down here. Otherwise, we simply just keep looping round, reading the characters until we eventually do get a semicolon character. At that point, this test becomes true. So we come in here, we store the current buffered message inside this variable message, and then we clear our message buffer variable so it's then ready to start buffering up the next message. We send the message then up to our serial monitor so we can see that on our PC. So remember, this is a message coming from our Bluetooth connection to the Arduino. So that will then tell us what has been sent to the Arduino. And then what we do is we're going to send a message back up to the Bluetooth terminal. So really we're going to have a little Bluetooth terminal running on our phone. That's going to allow us to send a message down to the Arduino. And then once it receives that message, it's going to send a message back up to our phone, and we'll be able to see that appearing then on the screen on our phone. And again then we're using the print method of our software serial object, and that allows us to send a text message back up over our Bluetooth. So coming over to the actual circuit, the very first thing we need to do is to pair the two devices. So this enables the phone to actually talk to the Bluetooth module. So if I power on the Arduino, you'll see that we get a flashing red light on our module. And that means that it is now in pairing mode. So if I come on to my phone and into my Bluetooth settings, we should see in available devices, we should see something that will relate to your module. Now I have already set up my module, and again I'll talk you through how to do that and how to set its device name in a different video. And mine is coming up as this ARD for Arduino. Now you will have something coming up there which will be fairly obvious that it is your Bluetooth module. If not, obviously just have your screen with its available devices, then power up your module and you should see a new device popping up in the available ones. And all we need to do is we need to select that and then pair with it. And the pairing code is usually 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we OK that, and then OK that, we should then find that we are now paired with with the module. Okay, so it's now coming up in my paired devices. We haven't yet created an actual connection to it, but we have paired our phone with it, so it is now able to make that connection. So let's have a look and see how we actually connect and start sending some data. So to actually communicate with our Arduino, we need a little bit of software running on our phone. So I'm going to just simply start with this idea of a Bluetooth terminal. So if you go to whatever app store you use for your phone and search for Bluetooth terminal or serial Bluetooth terminal, you should get a range of apps turning up. And the one I'm just going to use is this first one here, the Serial Bluetooth Terminal by Kai Morich. No particular reason I'm using that, it's just that it does have the features I need. So if I go into it, the features we want then, it needs to be a terminal where we can type in messages and then send them to our device. And of course be able to see the messages coming back from our device. And the important feature that we do need to do, if I expand this read more bit here, there's a number of different versions of Bluetooth. So we have our original sort of Bluetooth and then our Bluetooth low energy versions, which are slightly different. So you do need to make sure that the app you use is compatible with Bluetooth Classic. Now you can see in here then this one does support that, and it does specifically mention that it is able to talk to the HC-05 and HC-06 Bluetooth modules. So this one's going to be fine for us to use. So once you find one that is suitable, then just simply install that onto your phone and we'll be ready to start communicating with our Arduino. So if we come into our Arduino IDE, we of course need to upload the software up to the Arduino. So let's do that. And once that's up, we'll need to open up our serial monitor so we can actually see what's happening. So again, making sure we're on there and making sure we've got 9600 baud selected, which is what we set our serial channel to work at. So now we should be ready to actually make a connection with our device. So I've got the serial terminal up and running on my phone. So if I come in here and go to Devices, you can see that it's sitting there waiting to connect to the Arduino. So if I select that, and now we've got a connection, so you can see that our red LED has stopped flashing and is now on solid, and that means it's actually connected and ready to talk. So let's see if we can then do a message. Let me just grab hold of the phone a bit better and bring that forwards. Okay, so if I come into here and start typing a message, so remember we said that we were going to type a message and then we were going to use a semicolon to denote the end of a message. So if I send that, we can see that it's sent hello. The Arduino has then replied with the "you sent hello." And if we go back into our serial terminal, we can see that we've got the message coming up here. So we can then, if we come back, we can then send a number of messages. So if we send one, if we don't put a semicolon in, remember our code was simply going to collect any characters you send and then build them up into a message. So I could actually send a number of lines first. Like this. So you can see that we have sent in 1, 2, and then 3. And at this point I'm going to send the end of message character and send that in, and you can see that it's now come back saying you sent 1, 2, 3, and on our serial monitor you can see we've got those 3 lines that were all buffered up waiting to be sent. So we've got our Bluetooth module. It's now connected up to our Arduino. It's now paired with our phone. We're now able to both send information from the phone down to the Bluetooth module and then into the Arduino. And we're able to send information up from the Arduino through the Bluetooth module into our phone. And that is the basic setup for any of your Bluetooth communications. All we're simply going to be doing is using the Bluetooth to simply provide a serial channel between our Arduino and an app running on your phone or your computer or any other Bluetooth device. The communication we're going to send between the two will all be in terms of, well, character information or individual bytes. So we can send numbers up or we can send strings of characters. And again, it's then up to us to interpret what those messages are and how to both encode them to send them between devices and to decode them once they arrive. And that's really what we're going to look at in the very next lesson. So we're going to use this as the basis then. And we're going to expand that up. I'm going to show you how to very quickly put together an app running on your phone using a very useful piece of software from MIT, which lets you very quickly build those. And we're going to then control some RGB LEDs, and we'll see how we can use some sliders and user interfaces on our phone to do that. But make sure that you have a look at the course pages on my website. Again, links in the description below. And there you can download any software we've done here and again get circuit diagrams and so on. If you've enjoyed this, do please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Every subscription helps build what I'm doing here. And then hopefully I will see you in the very next lesson. Bye for now. Don't forget to visit the course pages for this project. There you'll be able to download the code for this lesson and get lots of extra hints and tips. You'll also get access to all my other programming, electronics and gaming projects. All the links are in the description below. For more games programming, electronics projects and retro gaming, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit my website.